What's up, everyone? It's your boy Norrin 89 here, bringing you another Radd movie review for 825 Forest Road. Today, we're talking about a new horror film that is currently streaming on Shudder. That's where you can check this film out, and this is kind of almost like one of those kind of typical haunted house, like town that has a secret kind of thing, and we have a new family moving in. That's kind of our plot and our theme for this one. So today, you're going to hear my positives, the negatives, the rating, and then I'm going to send you all home. So let's do this. Roll it. So 825 Forest Road is directed by Stephen Cognetti. If you don't know who he is, he's involved in the Hell House LLC trilogy, or that series. That's what he's mainly involved in terms of writing and directing and stuff like that. So I was kind of excited going into this one because, normally, found footage is his jam. This is a different one. This is more of a clear-cut narrative type story with actual characters and stuff. And we have a new family moving into a new home. We have Chuck, Maria, and Isabelle. Chuck and Maria are a couple, and Isabelle's his younger sister. They're moving into a new home, and they come to find out that this home has some secrets to it, but also the town as well, and the town people kind of let them in on that, and the kind of mystery unfolds as we go into the third act, and we learn some stuff. So let's talk about the positives right away before we get into sending mixed or negatives. Positives is that this one has an atmosphere. It slowly builds throughout the film. I must admit that at first I wasn't feeling this movie, but it increased, and I'd much rather have a movie that I wasn't feeling at first, where the first act was kind of a lull point, but then as you get into the second act and the third act, my interest was piqued. And I wanted to know more about the mystery and what was happening in this town. So, yeah, in terms of atmosphere, in terms of the way this film is built up and the story, like I said, I'd much rather have a film start out, I'm not feeling it, but it gets better as we get into the later half of the film. I also like the use of the small town aspect. I'm just a sucker for kind of mysteries or stuff that has to do with that. The town here is called Ashland Falls. So I just love when you have this really kind of creative name for a town. It's kind of small, close-knit, and there's a mystery going on. People are kind of acting weird and something's happening, but you can't really figure it out. It's a very cliche thing. That's one thing I got to say. It happens in a lot of horror movies and a lot of TV shows that are horror-related, but I'm just kind of a sucker for that kind of theme, the way they weave the plot through those story points and stuff like that. So, yeah, that's one thing that hits hard for me, too. Also, I think this film, like I said, the female actors, the one that plays Maria and the one that plays Isabelle, great, fantastic. I really love them, and this film is broken up into chapters, and they're the second and third act chapters. So I thought that's really why I was jamming with the film in the last half, because I think the female actresses in this film, they do a lot better than the actor that plays Chuck. We're going to talk more about him when we get into mixed and negatives, but yeah, Isabelle and Maria, their storylines, the way it weaves into their actual history and their characters and the development that they go on and the mystery, just so much better with that second and third act, and I think the ladies really hammer it down hard with their performances in this movie. One other positive I want to discuss before we get into mixed and negatives is the doll. We have a kind of creepy doll that's in this film. That's a lot of times in the trailers and the marketing for this film, and I think the doll it's a creepy looking doll. It's really cool, but it's like I said, some of the ways they use the doll, it's very cliche, but in terms of some of the jump scares that are in here, they did work. There's a couple in here that I cannot lie to you. There's two that are really, really good, and I think will get you. And one of them, it was like, it's a quick, instant one, and it's like one of those jump scares that when it happens, you want to see more. Like as a fan, you want to go back. You're like, what did I see? Did I see that? What's there? Kind of thing, and that's what it was. And yeah, this film, like I said, there's a couple times in there where they got me a little bit. Another thing I want to talk about as positive is one that's kind of a spoiler. So that's why I'm going to put a spoiler warning card right here on the top. So if you're going to watch this movie, wait for this at the top to disappear, because I won't be talking about the spoilers anymore. The third act, when we get into the third act, I like bleak endings. I'm not going to really talk about the ending in detail, but I like bleak endings that kind of let you in on what happens in the movie anyway. But I'm a sucker for that. And that film, that won me over with a lot of points, being that when we got to the third act, it was such a heavy, dark end. So now no more spoilers, no more spoiler talking. Now we're going to get into the mixed and negatives of the story, because this is one of those films that I kind of wanted to like more. I do enjoy this film. This is a film that I would watch again, but I wanted to like it more. And these are some of the things that were kind of holding me back from loving this movie. And one thing we want to talk about right away is Chuck. I think he is the first act, his first chapter is about Chuck. And I think that's the worst part of this film. The first 10 to 12 minutes is something that I think was a very cliche, like I said, a low point. You really have to get through it because it's that being a horror fan and being someone that's trained to watch so many horror films, and I've seen a great many, the first 12 minutes, like I said, is some very cliche bullshit type stuff. And then when we get into the second and third act, they reveal some other plot points and some twists that I was very excited about. So yeah, Chuck, not that great. Even the actor, I don't like his portrayal or his delivery. Like, that's one thing I want to say, is there are a couple characters in this film that they just, the way they talk to people, that's not how people talk to people. I know we're watching a movie, this is a cinematic event, and this isn't real life, but sometimes I want some realistic nature in my dialogue. And in this film, you can tell there's just points where people talk to each other, and the way they speak to each other, it's like, People don't talk to each other like this. Next up for negatives that would have really elevated this film is score and music. And that's one thing that I want to preface a lot. Like, I've been saying that a lot recently with some of the films that have been coming out this year, because I've noticed, like, a lot of the films that I've seen this year, I haven't seen a lot, but a lot of the horror films that I've seen this year, they don't really have a score or a theme. And that's something that really elevates your film, because when I hear the Friday the 13th score, or I hear the John Carpenter's theme, or, you know, even Killer Clowns, when I hear the Killer Clowns theme, like, it instantly takes me back and reminds me of the movie. And there's no real music like that in these films. A good example is going to the 2022 year of horror films. When you cycle through those films, like, oh, Fresh, we had Prey, we had the Hulu Hellraiser film, we had X, we had frickin' Influencer, so many films, and all of them had themes and scores and really good music in them. And I feel like a lot of the films now are kind of missing that. This one, it could be because of low budget reasons. Like I said, this is a Shudder original type film. This isn't a big budget blockbuster type horror film, but yeah, you can tell the sound design was there and sound mixing was there. That's a positive. The sound was there, but there was no music to really hook you in and really carry the theme of the story. Another negative, this is kind of a really nitpicky one, is I'm really picking on Chuck's character. I already talked about him a lot, and we're kind of going back and cycling back to him. His hair, the look of this character too, it's so facade and fake. Like, his hair was perfect in every scene. Like, you can clearly tell, like, Chuck just got out of the trailer and they just did all his makeup or whatever the hell, you know what I mean? And his hair was perfect. Like, whatever hairspray or gel this man was using, it was indestructible. And I think that, like, to me, it was kind of hilarious. That's why it's kind of a mixed negative, and it's like I'm a nitpicky thing. But I like I said, my characters, I like more realistic dialogue sometimes, and I want my characters to look different. Change of clothes, your hair disheveled when you get up in the morning because everybody gets bedhead, you know, shit like that, you know, realistic stuff like that, I feel like was kind of missing from this film. So overall, 825 Forest Road is one that I did enjoy. This is a horror movie that I wanted to love. Right now, it's kind of a toss-up between this one and Hard Eyes, which one is my favorite. I have to rewatch both of them. Like I said, I haven't seen a ton of new horror films this year, but right now it's this one and Hard Eyes that are the ones that are kind of competing for my favorite of the year so far. But this is still one of those films that I was struggling to love it. I like it, I really do, and I would rewatch it. But like I said, I was struggling to love it. And where I'm going to sit at with a rating, you're going to be a little bit surprised by the rating because it's going to be kind of high. But when it comes to a horror film, for me, the ratings, when it goes to an 8, which is what I'm going to give this film, 825 Forest Road's going to get an 8 out of 10. That's an instant rewatch level for me. When it's a horror film that after I watch it, I'm like, I can go back and watch this again, like right now, that's kind of like an 8 out of 10, you know, not based off curiosity, based off I want to affirm my feelings on it a little bit more. So I'm definitely going to end up watching this one with probably the kiddos or my wife and kind of see how it lands and how it plays out for them and stuff like that. But these are just my thoughts and my opinions on 825 Forest Road. That means I would love to hear from all of you down below in the comments section. Like I said, this film is currently streaming on Shudder and I believe Sling TV as well. So if you want to check it out, go check it out. Like I said, an 8 out of 10 is a very solid rating for me. Like I said, once you get past that 12-minute mark and all that, I think the story really evolves and it really blossoms, and there's a couple twists in here and some really good jump scares that'll get you. So I recommend 825 Forest Road. Please like the video. That definitely helps out the channel. Subscribe if you're new to the channel and have that notification bell poked so you're notified anytime I drop a video. But most importantly, you all know what's up. Have a safe and happy day. Peace out.